Hello, my darlings. It is time for another video in English. Now, when Tom and I recorded this, unfortunately, my Zoom settings for recording was to only record the screen of the person talking, which means that we will not be seeing both of us on screen at the same time in this video. But I think the topic is super interesting. We're going to talk about music in training videos, and not just music but also audio effects of different kinds. So I'm hoping that you love this video and that you will tell us in the comments what you think. How do you use music in your videos? All right, let's get into it. Hi everyone, and welcome back to a new video in English, which doesn't happen that often. I have a guest today. Tom, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, yes, my name's Tom McDowall. Thank you for having me. I'm probably the cause of that English video right there. I'm one of those terrible people that went, "Oh, another language, I shan't need that," and then found the real world and went, "Should have listened. That would have been useful."
Probably wouldn't have
Um,
learned Swedish though.
do you know what? I desperately wanted to learn Norwegian,
Okay, that would have been
but
close, but yeah.
yeah, but it would at least have been geographically close. But I would agree, had I spent my time learning French or German, probably not quite as useful on a day-to-day basis.
No.
But yeah, so my name's Tom. I'm I guess I always say I'm sort of like an L&D generalist, I suppose. Lots of people now have like super specific things that they do. But in my business, Evolve Learning Design, I'm the chief learning geek, because if you're going to start your own business, you may as well have silly job titles. But I'm also the head of learning design for I Am Learning, a vendor of off-the-shelf content. I've got a YouTube channel, Instructional Design Tips, which is very imaginatively named. You'll never guess what we talk about. And yeah, I guess other than that, I've spent the last kind of decade now, I guess, trying to kind of figure out how to make L&D work in a kind of performance-focused way in the workplace.
Mm, yeah. But you did mention that you have a podcast as well.
Yes. Yes, we had the
Um,
Ideas podcast, which
mm,
is now it was its own thing for a while, and now it's kind of merged a little bit into instructional design tips as well, just so I've got everything in one place, because
mm,
managing multiple platforms is a little bit of a pain, to say the least. But yeah, and that's it's really nice. In fact we've recorded an episode that's coming
yes, we
up
have.
soon,
Mm,
and it's kind of got a very kind of chill meeting at the coffee shop or meeting at the pub after work vibe to it.
mm,
And what I mean by that is I don't edit it. We have a conversation and then I publish it. It's great.
yeah, that's good. Reduce your workload.
Absolutely,
Yeah, no, but the reason I mentioned the podcast, well, first of all, because you need to promote it, of course, because that's what you're supposed to be
naturally.
doing when you have stuff, but also because that's why I invited you to this video. So I think you were talking to Belvista Studio. So it was a while ago,
Mm,
really old episode. But in it, you briefly just talked about adding music or sound effects to
yes.
video. And I guess usually when you talk to people in the industry, it's like music is great or no, no music in training videos. And I know you have a more nuanced approach. So why don't you sort of tell us about that?
Yeah, so it's funny. It was literally well, not quite the first time. It was the second time in having a YouTube podcast thing. I got like YouTuber backlash about that. I got so many messages from people saying, clearly you don't understand the research behind music because it's terrible and blah 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 blah. Um, so thank you for everyone who sent me pretty much the same bit of research. Have read it, got it, it's all good. So yeah, my approach is very much driven from the fact that I try and operate everything that I do in the L&D space in a kind of evidence informed rather than evidence based way. And that's always kind of defined as like a bit of a triangle. So you've got evidence as in proper scientific research, not blogs and YouTube videos and stuff like that, but proper research. Your next point is your personal or professional, more experience in having implemented things before and having learned real world lessons. And the third being specific context, your audience, the company, your intentions of the piece. And I feel like the reason there's maybe not a lot of nuance in this is people tend to take one of those and just stand staunchly there. Because if you look at any one of them, they are factually correct in what they are independently saying. A lot of research has been done that said, hey, if you put music on in the background of stuff, it's distracting, it's not helpful, it doesn't help people focus. Multitasking isn't really a thing when it comes to sensory input, all this sort of stuff. Factually correct. The flip side of that being the human experience of music is a fantastic way to get a direct path to people's emotions, to make them understand what a customer, for instance, is feeling during a mock exercise, or you only have to watch any great bit of film to see the power of music. I always kind of say, imagine your favorite film, whatever your favorite film is, and now imagine it without any of the music that's in it. Would it still actually be your favorite film? I would suggest it probably wouldn't be. And the same is true of the audience. Some audiences defy all logic, and some will align perfectly, and some will be somewhere in between. It's all about understanding that if you adopt any one of those, you will be factually right in everything that you say and do. But I personally think quite often the solutions you create will fail, because you need input from all three, I think, to be able to use tools like music and sound effects, because they are great and dangerous, kind of like every tool we have. I say nail guns are fantastic so long as you know which way to point them.
No, that makes total sense.
Yeah, so I think that's certainly where I start and where the nuance comes from, is that it's all about thinking about no one of those 3 points independently, bringing them all together, and then really thinking about what it is you actually want to achieve. Prime example, because I've played around with it a lot. YouTube's been great for that, actually. Because I've been like, let's just chuck some music on and see how it goes. And I got some great feedback on that. Would I now chuck music just behind something for, it's a bit quiet, let's just chuck in some background music? No, it's not serving a purpose. The best example I do have of when I have used like a full music track was actually in a customer service piece of training. It was just a quick intro bit, really just to set up like it was kind of like a mock interview with like a vulnerable customer type training scenario. And we just put on a little bit of the kind of what I always refer to it as my Channel 4 serious documentary music. It's just that kind of, it wasn't like cartoon sad music, but it was just kind of a little bit of slow piano, distinct minor key. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it just turned it down really low and just really set the tone for that kind of slightly, well, when this happened to me and I got in touch with them and this didn't work, and it just immediately elevated what was a bit of voiceover and a little bit of like an animated character talking to screen, going, everyone's going to get it, but it doesn't pull at the heartstrings. Little bit of music just gives you that little bit of emotional edge, and really worked there. Would I then put that music into the module that follows on from it? No, totally not. And the same's true with sound effects. I think sound effects, you probably want to use them one time out of 100. It's all about finding the right moment rather than just looking for an opportunity to use them. And I feel like that's where the argument can happen, is when people are just going, just chuck something in, put some music in the background because there's nothing in the background. That's not a bad thing all the time.
And that's the thing, I think, is that if you want to be nuanced about something, it's harder, right? Because it's easy to go, I'll chuck music on everything, or I never use music. But to say, each piece of content I create, I seriously consider what is needed to elevate that content to speak to whoever is consuming it. That is hard because that means you have to think more than if you wouldn't, right? And it requires you to maybe learn a little bit about like music and sort of film industry sort of approach maybe, or
Mm,
commercial like PR industry approach to sound and music, right? And what it does and what it doesn't. And then choosing appropriate music at the appropriate time.
mm.
I mean,
Yeah, and
I totally agree you shouldn't put music on everything.
yeah,
And all of these peppy corporate tracks, right? Do do
yeah,
do ba do 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 do. You know, um, they don't do anything.
no,
They might not ruin it if you keep it low enough, but they're not going to help, right? So
yeah,
why do it? Um, but like to have a little jingle maybe at the end of your videos, that could be nice, right? Or to have like a sound, say you're flipping from different scenes, a little piece of music to like tide you over to the next scene. That could be really nice.
mm,
Music to enhance emotion. That's what you said, could be useful. And sound effect to sort of enhance once again, like say you're having, I don't know, safety training, some, sounds of, I don't know, fire crackling in the background when you're doing your, fire drill training. That could be, enhance the experience of,
mm.
oh, right, fire is scary. Um, like, I don't like the sound of this. Maybe having like the fire alarm sound come on, like getting your pulse up a bit. Like that could be very useful. But you
Absolutely.
have to look at the individual piece of content every time. And I get that not all people want to do that.
Yeah. I think
Uh,
it is a very specific way of looking at content creation as well.
yeah.
Because I think often when I sort of bring that approach up, people will think, oh, so you look at it and go, so do I want to put music in this? And I actually think that's the wrong question to be
Yeah.
asking. What you want to do is always, in my opinion, create your almost like your MVP, create it with as few things going on as possible. If it's a video, get your visuals. If it needs a voiceover, get your voiceover in there. Then put your video in front of other people.
Mm.
Because no matter how good it is, by the time it's ready as an MVP, you're going to hate it
Oh,
because you've
yeah.
probably watched it a couple of hundred times at that point.
Hmm.
And you've watched this, 3 second segment with this stupidly simple but actually really complicated to make animation in it, or whether it was just a jump edit that was tricky to get just right with the audio, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Put it in front of other people, and then ask them, "Do you feel like this was?" Don't ask them, would you like me to add music?
Yeah.
Don't make that the question to yourself either. Ask, is this achieving what I want it to achieve or what it needs to achieve? If the
Mm.
answer is yes, leave it alone. Um,
Yeah.
but if the answer is no, well, then it needs to be, so what is it not achieving? And what are the possible ways of making that happen?
Mm.
And that's in my process anywhere where I might go, would music help with this? And there are lots of things where music would not help. It could just be that your edit, I find this especially specific in edited video as opposed to animation. Because in animation, you've got a script, you know what you're saying, it's direct. If you've interviewed someone or you've filmed a documentary in multiple pieces, that style of video, you can edit it, get to the view stage, and suddenly realize the flow's wrong, or you've cut out what didn't seem like an important bit of information, but actually it provides context for something else that is important, or all these other things, none of which music will help.
Mm.
Um, it might be that your presenter is just terrible and you didn't really think about it up until now.
Mm.
Music can't save you there either.
No.
Um, so it,
I mean, music can never say bad video.
no,
Let's just be clear about that. Like, you can't polish a turd, I guess is the saying, right? It's like,
yeah,
if it's bad,
absolutely.
it's bad.
No, this is it. I think great audio, we always say great audio is more important than great video, and that's
Mm.
true, but we're talking about the what I would call the direct audio, not the backing audio. And the thing that weirdly always sticks in my head, because I'm a nerd, is when they were doing the folio soundtrack for the third Lord of the Rings film. Oh yeah, that's right, we're going that specific. And you've got the great big Mumakil elephant type things coming in. They don't have 4 footsteps, they have 2. That's inaccurate and it's not right. And once you know they've done it, you can hear it and you kind of go, oh, but until they told you they did it, you didn't notice. And if they'd added 4, it would get muddy and complicated. That's always stuck in my head, not specifically learning specific, but more just the idea that audio can make or break your video, but more complexity in audio is not always a good thing. In fact, simplicity is usually the way to go. If something is causing you a problem, and music's a great example of this. If you're trying to add music to a video and it's causing a problem, just delete it. You know, if after 10 minutes of playing around with levels and ducking and things like that, it's not right, just hit the delete button. Yeah,
Re-record
absolutely.
that or figure out another way to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, one other instance I might use music if there is no speech at all in the video. So let's say you're doing a video for an organization that works in multiple countries and therefore in multiple languages, right?
Yes.
You might prefer to make a text-based video where you can just translate the text and create lots of the same video very simply without having to use AI voice, which is awful. There I might put some music to just distract from the fact that it's quiet, because people handle quiet not that great. Like a pause, yes, we can handle that, but just nothing, we can't handle that very well. So there I would probably put some, you know, maybe peppy corporate music or whatever, appropriate to the topic, of course.
Yeah, and I think there it's kind of pulling double duty as well, as it's removing that awkwardness of as you say, a break is fine, but like a minute to 2 minute silence is awkward by anyone's measure. So yeah, I totally think that can work. But what it can also do is create a pace for you. And I think music can be a very useful pacing tool in those kinds of videos. The same reason you see it in commercials in the marketing world. To a certain extent, the same reason you see it in TVs, films, video games is one that I think everyone's kind of experienced now. That kind of natural changing of pace as you move through a game. It's a very easy way to get someone to adjust to a pace that they've got no control over in your video, but the music gives them a sense of coherence, because pretty much all music we use in the learning world is going to be 4/4. If you're using something with a complicated time signature, just don't. And this is going to upset a lot of people. But it gives people a reliable, okay, so this is the pace that this is moving at, because the song is telling me that. Kind of the same reason to not use stuff with vocals in it, unless that is the entirety of the piece, which is always interesting when you create music as the content. It's rare you get to do that.
You rarely create music as the content for learning.
I've had good fun doing that though.
That would be, I would love to do that. I would love to like create a lyric about customer service or like
there's fire extinguishers, evacuation points, and we did a nice little set of them actually. But very specific client, very specific want. Like they came in going, we want to do this solution. Like we're really energized about it.
Can we please get quirky with it?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Those are my favorite clients.
Yeah. Well, yes. Yeah. It's fine. But then the expectation is up there, you know. You've got nowhere to hide with that kind of stuff. You know, if kind of the same with text-based videos. Again, by having such simplicity, there is nowhere to hide. Everything must be perfect. I think that's again where music can actually help in those text-based videos. By providing that pace, it's effectively providing with a framework of this is the pace at which I should animate it. And as long as you stay in time with the music, it will inherently feel right to the viewer, which I think is sometimes the challenge there.
Yeah, but that also brings up, because what you're saying basically, if you're going to do a text-based video with audio, you should choose the audio first.
Maybe not first.
Or,
Maybe define your content first.
That's not the last thing you do. You don't go and then they'll slap some audio on this.
Yeah, no, that will go badly.
If you want to pace it with your animations, etc.
Yeah,
it needs to come in fairly early in the process.
Yeah,
otherwise you'll be redoing everything, and that's extra work.
Yes, yeah, I would say so. You certainly don't want to animate to a piece of music and then change the music, unless it's something that follows the exact same kind of speed. And I guess just for those who maybe haven't done it before or want to try that out, most music libraries that you find online will give you the BPM or beats per minute. That's a good way of getting an eye, like a feel for how quick this is going to be, and matching things up if you do want to change the music. But yeah, certainly if it's not very often I do text-based videos, but if I do, that tends to, I outline the content, figure out roughly what I want, go and find the bit of music that in my head I'm kind of already visualizing it to go, okay, yeah, that would work, and kind of play the song through a few times maybe.
Yeah, so storyboard first, then music, then animate.
Yeah, that's probably what I'd do. Yeah,
that's the process. Yeah, that's probably the same thing I would do. Yeah, and then when you're editing real video, if you will, right, or you would probably choose the music, but not at the end, but later in the process.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? Everyone's got such different ways of working in this. Like, I openly admit my approach to editing video is very old-fashioned, because I learned to do it at school. It was like what I went to learn, so I learned to edit on Avid machines. When it was like, oh my god, there's a terabyte of data. It was huge. It's pretty like wall-sized computer for a terabyte of footage. Everyone was very excited. And now we're just like, oh, my terabyte thumb drive will just go over here, which makes me a little bit sad whenever that happens. But yeah, so my approach is actually that music and sound effects come literally they are the last thing to get added to the edit. So I tend to go through like a kind of initial throw everything in, then a rough cut, a refined cut, a cut with transitions and effects, then color gets done next, and then literally the last thing to go on in most of my edits is any kind of it's very rare that I do ADR these days. It's just not necessary because audio equipment's good, but if you've got any, that's where you put that in, then your music and your sound effects. But that's just my approach. Similarly, I was chatting to someone else who's doing a YouTube project at the moment, and they literally, when they're creating their video idea, they choose the music that's going to go into their video at that stage before they've even recorded it.
Okay, well, then they let that sort of drive how they edit the video instead.
Yeah, this is it. So I feel like that is...
Well, that's fine as well.
Yeah.
So you have to choose your approach. I sometimes choose the music early. Like, we did one video, it was customer service training, and we decided we wanted to use sort of a video game approach where you could do it right or wrong, right? So when they did it right, they got the like, woo, or the point sound, right? And if they didn't do it correctly, they got a etc. So we decided that early that was the kind of video we were making. So, and it was not animated, it was recorded with real people. So we had to sort of decide, not maybe on the exact sounds that we were going to use, but we had already decided on, this is the idea that we're filming. It's like customer service. What, can you do it right? And you'd have the wrong one first, right? And you hit a and the sad, like, you know, and or the even, you know, the dying sound, right? Like this. And then when you did it right, you'd have like the or the point sounds or whatever. And so we didn't choose the exact sounds until very late, but I already knew what kind of sounds we were doing.
Yeah, and I think most people, as you go through that creative process, you're always going to be logging away little ideas, whether it's right at the start or whether it's just randomly halfway through. And I think I'd always encourage, like, especially once you're if you're filming or in editing, always make sure you've got somewhere to note down ideas, because stuff will just occur to you that you would never have thought of at that, even if it's just like an ad lib someone throws in, and all of a sudden it completely changes the direction of that section of video, whatever it might be. It's surprising where that stuff can come from. And yeah, I mean, I suppose one advantage I think we've got now as well is that if you've got a decent video or a decent bit of animation, it takes 30 seconds, let's say, to chuck a bit of audio on there. If it doesn't work, you can delete it. We're in an age of non-destructive editing now. We're not writing to negative anymore. It's going to cost you no time, no money, very little energy to make a mistake and undo it. So I guess I would say it would be nice if people be a bit braver and say, hey, look, let's just, exactly. If it's not doing what you want it to do, chuck it in, see what it sounds like. If it doesn't improve it, delete it. No harm done.
Just to kind of end this though, because we've been at it for like 20 minutes already.
And
people like short videos. But I was just thinking, because I feel like both you and I were kind of nerdy about video, right? We like video, we like working with the tools and the animations and the bar. What if you're like basically e-learning designer who has to make some video? Do you have any like sound advice?
Ooh. I mean, kind of, I think kind of in that space, especially, I would say simplicity is the best thing you can do. Or your best friend, really. Especially if you're not gonna want to be spending long on your edit. So, if you want to try using music, I would suggest figure out your pace. Just pop something in and just use whatever software you're using for your video creation, whether it's what we got, Premiere, DaVinci, Final Cut. Is iMovie still a thing?
It
Maybe?
kind of is.
Here we go, iMovie. What else? You got Premiere Rush as well, for those who don't want to really learn Premiere Pro. All of them have, this is it. All of them have got auto ducking features, and what that will do is immediately reduce the volume of your music below, or to a certain amount below, the normalized volume of your speech. Start there, just apply that one thing, and then have a listen and adjust the volume up and down accordingly. It's almost always going to be down, it's never going to be up. And then when you think it's quiet enough, drop it by another couple of dB, because it's far better for it to be a little bit too quiet than a little bit too loud. I think that's probably to me, that's the biggest mistake with background music. Even if it otherwise works really well in that particular use case, it's almost always too loud. And I still sometimes make this mistake. I think it sounds great, and I come back to a video a week later and I'm like, that background music is far too loud. So if someone ever says that to you when you get feedback, don't take it badly.
Thank you for telling me.
Exactly, yeah. And bear in mind, there are films that are out there on Netflix and all sorts, and at moments you go, I can hear this music, but I can't hear them speaking. So that professional audio mixer has made the same mistake, because it is not an exact science. I mean, L&D knows all about not exact science, but when it comes to audio, you're really in the realm of art rather than science.
Definitely, yeah. And I also think, like, I mean, if you're unsure if you should use your music or not, you probably shouldn't.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a good rule of thumb, is like, if you're like, I don't know, then chuck it.
Yeah, again, what's the point? If it doesn't serve an actual need, same with everything in learning, right? Get it out of the way. Everything you add on top of what's actually necessary is going to be causing a problem rather than helping.
Yeah. But I mean, if you like it, if you think video editing is fun, even if you're not good at it yet, but if you like it, I would play with it.
Yeah.
As one of the tools that you can do lots of fun things with, but just never apply music or audio on principle.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it at the right used in the right way, it's the quickest and easiest way to elevate your video.
Mm.
But
Used in the wrong way.
use it at the wrong time, you sound like the ultimate amateur.
Yeah.
That is it's weird. It can simultaneously elevate you to that professional tier and relegate you to no clue what they're doing, just by using it or not on a particular piece of content.
No, agreed. And I also like what you said in the beginning about just have someone else watch it
Oh yeah, yeah,
and do that for multiple iterations even. And it doesn't
definitely.
have to be like a colleague. You could show it to a friend or your significant other, your kids. Just like,
Mhm.
could you just look at this and just tell me if it itches when you watch it or if it's okay?
Yeah, totally. Never be afraid of that. I mean, in slightly, it is related, but in the film world, there's this concept called dailies. So after every day of shooting, the what we might call the senior leadership or the director and the head of photography and all that kind of thing get together and they watch every minute of every camera that's been filmed that day on a big screen. And obviously, it's not been edited, graded. There's bad sounds, there's problems, there's multiple takes of the same thing and people falling over or getting their lines wrong, but they watch everything because that's how they can make a judgment on what to cut, what to change, and it has to be all of them because
Yeah. And what
you
to
need
re-record.
disagreement.
Yeah.
Yeah, you realize, you look at it and go, okay, yeah, that's fine, and someone else goes, no, actually,
Yeah.
this you may not have noticed because you're focused on getting the job done, but they say this and then that. Or I mean, prime
Or yeah,
example, a
or
couple of
they were supposed to speak in this accent and here
yes,
they didn't. And
yeah,
nobody noticed because it was such good acting, but
this is it,
it's the wrong
and
accent.
yeah, and especially in the world of if you're shooting real video,
Mm,
you will get video back and you'll go, this is out of focus.
yeah.
Or maybe not
Yeah.
massively, but it's a bit
Or
soft,
yeah,
or
or
it
the
shifts
audio
or
is not
something.
right, or
Yeah,
the lighting is terrible, or the
this
person is not looking into the camera.
that's always a good one.
And you're like, oh my God. And I mean, there are ways to distract from some of that, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you can't really fix it, but you can sort of distract from it.
yeah,
Um, or you just animate over it. You just use the audio. That's sometimes the fix you have to do if the audio is okay and the video
absolutely.
is crap.
Yeah, but at least
Um,
then you know that you've got to do that fix.
yeah.
And it's amazing, again, if you're the person in the thick of it, you will be amazed at the things you accidentally overlook
Mm,
during the process.
yeah.
So yeah,
That's why I
that,
also
yeah,
always do at least 3 takes when I'm filming with others. The
minimum.
third take
Yes.
is almost always the one I'm using. First take is always a ramble. Second is okay, but a bit long. And at
Hmm.
the third, they're so tired of saying it, they finally get short with you and you get what you actually want. Like that's my rule of thumb for
And
filming.
if you can shoot them from two angles,
And all
that's a
3,
winner.
yes, always.
Um,
Yeah.
because even because if they are looking away, you can just cut to the slightly side on camera, and no one will ever know they weren't looking at the camera.
Exactly. Yeah,
It's
no.
a nice
Filming with
save, that one.
multiple angles is probably like it was the biggest lift for my video training video making. It was when I realized I use Premiere Pro that I can just with the audio automatically sync them.
Yep.
And that is quick and not like this time consuming thing of getting it exactly right. And once I figured that out, like I film with 4 cameras sometimes now
Mm.
because it's not that much extra work. I just set them up, have them record, and if I need it, I have it. It also really helps if you have to go between takes
Yes.
to change the angle because nobody's going to notice you're doing it between takes
Yeah.
and getting back to sitting slightly more to the left or right or whatever,
Yeah.
slouching more or whatever might have happened between takes. So yeah, no, love the different angles. Now we're just getting into video editing tips. Maybe we'll
Yeah,
have to make a
absolutely.
video about that. But I think we're going to end it here. So thank you, Tom, for coming and sharing your wisdom on audio in training videos.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you
Yeah,
so much for
and
having me.
I'm going to put all of Tom's links in the description. So if you want to follow him on any or every platform, you will be able to stalk him to your heart's content.
Fantastic. Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye.